The official release date for .NET 8 should be sometime in November 2023. Now, .NET 8 will be a long-term supported version of .NET, meaning it would be a good idea to upgrade it into your stack. Now, in case you're not aware, Microsoft released early preview versions of .NET beforehand for developers to try out and feedback on. Now, the good news is that on 21st of February 2023, the first preview version of .NET 8 was released. Now, to celebrate this preview release, I thought it'd be a great idea to have a quick deep dive in some of the new coding goodies that you'll be able to get your hands on. So, by sticking around for the next 10 minutes, you'll be able to get completely caught up with what's new in the world of .NET. So if that sounds good to you, you're in for a banger. In order to get going with .NET 8, you'll first need to download the SDK on your local machine. Now, doing this is simple. Go over to Google, .NET 8 Preview Download. You'll find the Microsoft page, and from here, you'll probably want to install two things. Now, obviously, depending on your operating system will depend on which version of the SDK you want to download. For me, I want to download the 64 Windows edition, which is that one here. Now, if you want your .NET 8 application to be hosted, say in IIS, you also want to make sure that you have this hosting bundle jobby here. So, download both of these. It's going to be about 200 megabytes. Install them, run them, job is a good one. After downloading and installing the .NET 8 SDK, you'll also need to upgrade your Visual Studio. Now, without doing this, you will not see the option to use .NET 8 whenever you create a new project inside of Visual Studio. Now, in case you're not aware, Microsoft released preview editions of Visual Studio. Now, you need to be careful when using the preview versions, as they could contain bugs or performance issues. Now, personally, I've been using preview versions very happily for many years now, and so far I've never really had any main issues. However, it is a consideration. Now, the version of .NET you want to install is 2022 17.6 Preview 1. So to install this preview edition, again, Google is your friend. Do a search for Visual Studio Preview Edition, and you'll find this. Try Visual Studio 2022 17.6 Preview 1. Go in there. You're going to get access to a big download button. Click on that, install it. Job will be a good one. Now, one tip that I will give you if you're new to preview editions is that if you see a preview feature that you want to work with, however, it's not appearing in Visual Studio, what you can do is seeing if it's enabled or not. So to go to preview features, go to tools, then go to options. Then within the environment section, you can see that we have this nice easy preview features. Now, if you scroll through here, you can see that we've got maybe 40 or 50 different features, and you have the ability to turn things on and off. So if you notice that a feature isn't missing, the first tip I'd have is come into this list, have a look through it, and make sure it's actually enabled. In today's video, all the code you're about to see is being created in a .NET 8 app. So if you'd like to get hold of that app to play around, all you need to do is head on over to my GitHub. So the address, the URL is github/johndjones-poc, proof of concept. Then in the repositories tab, click on there, and you can see probably at the top this .NET 8 preview examples. Click on that, then you know how to clone things. Click on the big button here, and all the code you want to see and access is all here. Enjoy. Now, the next feature was quite a surprise for me because it can be found within the smash on the subscribe button namespace, and you can help me out by compiling that like button. Now, if you haven't come across this channel before, my name is John and I do a weekly video every Sunday on basically videos that will help you become an absolute coding legend. So if you like .NET, this is a great channel for you, so you know what to do. Now, the first new code feature we're going to look at are some improvements to the random class. Now, in .NET 8, we have access to two new methods. Now, the first one is called getItems, and the other one is called shuffle. So let's have a look at this in action. So you can see that I've got this list here. So list has got 1, 2, 3. Now, the first thing we have is this getItems. Now, one of the caveats from using getItems is that it only works with read-only spans. So if you're working with a list, you're going to need to convert it before you can pass it into the method. Now, getItems will take this read-only span, and then it also takes the number of items that the picker needs to return. Now, if I look in my items collection just here, we will see that we've got 2 items, 1 and 3. And if we rerun the query, when we look in the items collection again, you can see that I've now got 3 and 2, and so on and so on. So the takeaway is that if you want to pick a random item or multiple items from a list, we can now use getItems. Now, the next method is called shuffle, and shuffle will basically shuffle a list. And in this example, you can see that I'm passing in my list item again. Now remember, my list item is ordered 1, 2, 3. And the shuffle method, just like a pack of cards, is going to shuffle. So a bit of annoyance is we have to convert this into a span. Then we can pass that span into the shuffle method. And without doing this, at the moment, you're going to get a type mismatch error. Now, after we've shuffled our list, you can see that when we go back in here, I've now got the ordering of 3, 2, and 1. So just like a pack of cards, if you need to shuffle one of your lists, you can make use of this now. The next set of improvements are focused around serializing and deserializing JSON. The first improvement that we're going to look at is all around interface inheritance and deserialization. So I've got a nice little app to show you how this works. On the screen, you can see I've defined an interface called iRoot. Now this defines this string property. Now underneath this, we've got another interface called iChild. This is implementing from iRoot, and it's defining a property called child. Now finally, I've defined a class. This class is called demo objects, and this is implementing from iChild. Because we're implementing like this, we're going to have to implement the root property and the child property. So classic inheritance. Now in previous version .NET, trying to deserialize that object would have been a bit of a pain, and you'd have probably encountered an error. However, in the brand new world, you can see we've got JSON serializer down here. We've got our serialize method. And when we look in data, as you'll probably expect, we've got this nice and serialized with all the implemented child inherited properties. So everything is now beautiful. Now, another one of the improvements is that sometimes whenever you're trying to do some serialization and you're trying to map it to a POCO, however, the property doesn't exist, then the whole thing blows up and you get some sort of exception. Now, using this new attribute, which is JSON unmapped member handling, we can then put this on our POCO, and then if things don't map up, we can carry on without the whole thing blowing up. So again, this is kind of nice if you're dealing with JSON, which might change, but you only really care about dealing with 1 or 2 properties. The next serialization, deserialization improvement is around casing. Yep, when you want to serialize things, you can now define the type of case that you want to use. So we can pick from snake case, kebab case, camel case, classics. So we've got 2 examples here. Now this one is the kebab case. So using our JSON serializer options, you can see that we have this property naming policy. Now within this JSON naming policy, we've got things like kebab lowercase. We've also got options like camel case, kebab uppercase, snake case upper and lower. With the JSON serializer options object defined, we can then pass it in as a second parameter into our JSON serializer serialize. Now the benefit of doing this is that when we look in our final output, we can see that we've now got kebab case because we've got all the little dashes where there should be spaces. So the process is exactly the same for the snake case. Now another new introduction into .NET 8 is the ability to use this make read only when it comes to the JSON serializer options object. Going back to our snake conversion code, you can see it's exactly the same. So this time in our JSON naming policy, we're using snake case lower. We're passing it again as an additional parameter into JSON serialize.serialize. And then when we look at the final output, we can see that now instead of dashes, we've got underscore instead of the little spaces. Snake conversion complete. The final big change we're going to look at in .NET 8 are some brand new performance related types. And we're going to start the ball rolling looking at a brand new type called frozen dictionary. As of .NET 8 onwards, you can convert any dictionary into a frozen dictionary. So let's see how we can do that in code. On the screen, you can see I've got a classic example of defining a dictionary. So I've got a variable which is called example, and I'm assigning it as a new dictionary of type string and string. Now, in order to convert this example variable into a frozen dictionary, you can see that I do this to a frozen dictionary. And this to a frozen dictionary is a brand new method. Now, the return type from this, as you'll see, is exactly the same, but this time it's a frozen dictionary. This is now immutable. This means it's not going to change. Performance-wise, it's quicker because we can allocate the exact size of memory that we need. It also means that we're more robust and all of that good stuff. So this is going to be a nice win when you upgrade to .NET 8. The next new performance-related type that we're going to look at is called index of any values. Now, the benefit of this type is that you're going to have more performant code. However, there is a slight trade-off. It's going to take more lines of code to use it. So let's see this code in action so you can make your own mind up. You should use index of any values whenever you want to search for the first occurrence of a value within a collection. Now, the example I'm about to show you on screen will match on the first occurrence within a string based on an array of chars. Now, the benefit of using index of any values over the normal index of any method is that a lot of the lookup work is done up front as optimization. Now, the type will handle deriving whatever data is necessary in order to optimize subsequent searches. So, within this new, more performant way of doing indexing, we can use the index of any values.create method. Now, in here, we're going to be passing in a char array. An index of any values is going to return an index of any values char array. Now, based on this return value, we can then use the as span. So, yep, unfortunately, we still need to convert this to a span. We can then do an index of any, passing in our char array. Now, the benefit of using this code compared to the older approach shown above is that this new code is more performant. The final brand new performance-related type that's been released as part of .NET 8 that we're going to review in today's video is called composite format. Now, you can bust out a composite format when you want to have some performance benefits when you're trying to manipulate strings. So let's see this in action. So in order to use the composite format, you can see we can do composite format.parse. In here, we're passing in our string formatted example. Now, this is going to return us a type of composite format. And from here, we can access the original bit of text using the .format property. Now, in order to get the performance-related benefits, you can see that we can use a string.format. We're passing in our invariant culture. We're passing in our new composite formats. And then we're passing in the bit of text that we want to do our formatting with. Now, using composite format in a string format like this is going to be more performant. So just like index of any values, this type is going to do any performance optimizations up front that it can. So when this code executes in real time, it's going to run quicker. Currently, these examples are all the main code-related changes that have been bundled up in .NET 8 that you need to be aware of. Now, aside from code updates, there's also been a number of proposed framework changes bundled up with the release that I haven't covered yet. Now, some of the more notable features include updates to .NET Publish and .NET Pack. So when you use these now by default, they will publish a release build instead of a debug build. Now, performance-wise, the .NET team loves adding performance tweaks in any major upgrade of .NET, and .NET 8 is definitely no exception. Now, one of the big performance boosts in this release meant to be native AOT support. So native AOT ahead of time provides AOT compilation. Now, basically this means it's going to run faster depending on the device it is. Now, this feature apparently has significant performance improvements for .NET applications. And in order to get these benefits, you'll not need to do anything specifically, so there's nothing really to demo in this video. Other noteworthy improvements could be found within container creation. There's improvements to both Maui and Blazor. Additionally, .NET is now buildable on Linux directly from .NET repository. Now, I'm sure as we near November, you'll see more and more new features being added. I still have my fingers crossed for nullable parameter types. However, I think I might be disappointed with the outcome to that one. However, I can dream. Now we have reached that time in the video. It's time for me to say, do not forget to smash on subscribe if you like this content and help me out with the magic YouTube algorithm. It takes me a while to create these videos, so clicking on like helps me grow this channel and I appreciate it greatly. The final point that I'd like to leave you with is that if you're interested in learning more about the future of the .NET ecosphere, then I've created a video called Is C# Doomed? Now in this video, I use data to try and prove that the release of .NET 5.6.7 has actually increased adoption of .NET. Now, the results of this are very interesting and maybe a little bit surprising. So I recommend checking that out if you want to learn more about .NET. Otherwise, I hope you've had an amazing time watching this video. Hope you're having a great time wherever you are in this beautiful world. And until next Sunday, happy coding!